back to At Home. Well, if you suffer from stress, anxiety, phobias, or other emotional problems, even long-term trauma, this is going to be really interesting for you in our next guest. David Rourke is here, and he's one of only 2 people in Canada who are certified masters of a process called emotional freedom technique. Now, we've had you on before. It was a while back, and let's just go over again exactly what this is.
It's actually, it would be considered emotional acupuncture, except we're not going to use needles. You don't need any needles in order to stimulate different acupressure points on your body.
Okay, how old is this technique, and where did you first get introduced to it?
Well, the technique, acupuncture's been around for thousands and thousands of years. Emotional freedom techniques was developed by a man named Gary Craig, an engineer out of Stanford University. For some reason, he was really into helping people, and he wanted to be the best that he could, and he was studying with this man around energy meridians, and he discovered that if you focus on something that upsets you, whether it's a phobia or something like that, say a fear of spiders, you've got all these adjectives that are attached to it. It's an ugly, creepy, scary spider. What this will do, if you're thinking about it while stimulating different acupressure points, it actually calms you down. So when you look at that spider, you just see a spider rather than this creepy, ugly, scary spider. It kind of takes away the emotional attachment that we place on things.
Well, how did you get introduced to this? And was this to help you through?
Well, I was an addiction counselor at the Newport Center in Port Colborne, and I noticed that everybody is traumatized. If you can keep them clean and give them a psych evaluation, you'd find that over 90% were suffering from some kind of acute stress disorder, post-traumatic stress, whatever. And so, the reason why they're using the substance, obviously, is because it works. Otherwise they wouldn't be doing it. They would think of some other alternative.
Self-medicating.
Yeah, self-medicating to calm that anxiety. Right. So I started learning about trauma because I noticed the switch was really easy to turn on. It could be the look of somebody at a specific time. You're expecting praise from mom, and what you got was a look of disgust instead. Who am I kind of thing. It could be an accident. It could be a violent sexual assault. It could be anything that can create trauma. Turning the switch on is easy. Turning it off, rather difficult. So I started learning about trauma, and one of the courses that I took was emotional freedom techniques. I was in a room full of social workers, and we started working on this, and I had a woman that was in her mid to late 50s with a fear of driving over railroad tracks. She couldn't do it. Panic attacks.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just fascinating. In 17 minutes, that phobia was gone.
It's amazing what people develop phobias for, right? To me, that just seems...
Well, because if you don't have that phobia, you can't get your head around it.
I know,
right?
I know.
Like we were talking earlier that I'm claustrophobic. You remember that?
But that's a very common one.
But it is. But some people who aren't claustrophobic would say, well, why? Why would that bother you?
Yeah.
People.
But I kind of get that one. I don't get the train track thing. It seems kind of unusual, but that's a thing. There's so many.
And some of them are usually just... there's something else going on. Like I had a woman that had an intense fear of moths. Like she would look at moths and she said, "Don't you know how ugly they are?" I said, "Well, it's kind of a judgment, She said, "Well, have you ever been on the internet and look up close?" She's telling me that she's re-stimulating herself. She's trying to resolve something. Otherwise, if you're phobic about something, why would you want to bring it up?
Why do you keep looking at it?
The reality was it was the last thing she saw flying around a light as she was pulling the covers over her head, as she was being sexually assaulted, or after she was being sexually assaulted.
Wow.
So that the phobia transferred into...
Wow. Yeah.
It went into the moth.
So yeah, you're having to go in deeper to find out some of the connections for some people,
that's not always.
right?
Sometimes it's just...
Sure. What would you say some of the most common ones that you would find?
Spiders, snakes, that kind of thing. Boy, I'm never surprised, actually. Clowns, balloons.
Clowns, okay, we get clowns.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for clowns because we don't like you very much.
No. So you said the train track lady, she was cured of this phobia in 17 minutes.
And there's no way to really test.
No.
Because we're in a clinical setting until she gets out in her car. But the mind does not know the difference between what's real and what's not. Have you ever woken up from a dream and run outside to see if the pony's really there? Have you ever had that?
Well, there is that moment when you first wake up where you think it really happened. Right?
So the mind does not know the difference.
What time of day is it?
Exactly. Where's my car?
Yeah, exactly. You really do.
That's why I don't drink anymore.
There you go. It makes it worse.
Yeah, it does work, right? Yeah, no more drinking, no more drinking.